Hello ladies and gentlemen, Darkstrom here with another 3 levels video. I've had to turn dark because the frog lights have broken me. Back to serious though. Yellow ladies and gentlemen, my name is Strom, back with another video on my 3 levels of Froglight Farms. There will be a world download down the video description to review what we see. As always, first we're going to go over some mechanics, then we're going to get into farms. You will notice, you look at the signs behind me, and it's not our normal quick and dirty getting an upgrade and approaching OP, because you'll see. So let's get to it. With a verdant Froglight and the pearlescent Froglight, otherwise known as yellow, green, and purple. The way that you get these Froglight blocks is by having a frog eat a baby magma cube. You can see once he ate it, then it drops out the block. They will not eat the medium-sized cubes or the large cubes, so you need to kill those to get those down to the smallest size cube first, and then the frog will hunt out and eat them. I have already seen this online a couple of times, but you cannot actually get Froglights from the small slimes. It has to be the magma cubes. So as we saw there, they will eat the baby slimes, but then they just drop out the slime balls. Which is ironic, because slime balls are what's used to breed frogs. And then one of the frogs will lay the frog spawn. We wait for the frog spawn to hatch into 2 to 6 tadpoles. And then after 20 minutes, they will grow up into a frog. The adult frog's color will vary based on which biome they grew up in. So a hot biome gives you one of the white frogs to drop the purple blocks. A temperate biome, like these plains, gives you the orange-colored frog to give you the yellow blocks. And then the cold biomes will give you the green frogs for the green blocks. As of now, there is no known way to get a frog of a specific color to appear from a tadpole other than by having it grow up as an adult inside that biome. That's the intended mechanic. I'm hoping someday someone will find a way to break this. Because this also means that if you want all 3 types of blocks, you need to get all 3 types of frogs into the same farm. We'll review what that looks like later on in the video on level 3, so if you want to see that, skip ahead to level 3 and down in the timestamps. But this is kind of unfortunate because it means, A, we need to get the specific types of frogs either to the nether where we can get magma cubes to spawn, or we need to get magma cubes to spawn and bring them to the overworld where the frogs are. That means in order to get 1 block, you need to have 2 entities. This is the problem with level 3 in this video. We'll talk about it when we get there, but what happens is the magma cubes, they don't get hunted right away by the frogs. So far we've been seeing them getting eaten quite quickly. But once you have a bunch of magma cubes jumping around, they kind of take their time. So that's what this is going to be based around. That being said, there's not going to be too much more to get into except where we can get magma cubes. So magma cubes can spawn a few different places. They spawn in the basalt deltas in the nether. They spawn inside of nether fortresses in any biome, occasionally in the nether waste biome, or from spawners in the treasure bastions. We are going to be using the basalt delta for 2 of these because that way all we have to worry about is magma cubes, gas, and striders. Striders we don't care about, gas we don't care about, and then we've got magma cubes. So that's all we're going to cover for this. Like I said, it's pretty simple. Frog eats magma, poops out light block, you're done. So we're going to get into version 1 here. This is quick-ish and very dirty. So what we have here is we found an area in a basalt delta that is a nice open area. And then we just built a couple layers of circles that are 16 block radius from our iron golems here. Magma cubes have a 16 block radius that they can pathfind to. They will want to attack the golems. And then what we're doing is we're just using the golems themselves to help break these down. So I'm going to just spawn in a bunch of extra mobs. You are not going to see this many spawn on your platforms because we have all this area around us that's spawnable. But we're going to use those golems to help us break down those big magma cubes. And then the medium ones and small ones can fall in here. There are just 4 powdered snow here for the medium ones to touch. And then we've just got our frogs standing on trapdoors. We have the trapdoors so that we are pushing those medium ones up towards that snow so that they're touching that powdered snow. Take that damage and die, and then all those hoppers just point into a chest. So this is pretty cheap. You're really looking at the iron cost of the golems and the hoppers. You know, iron seems a lot more easy to come by these days just by doing some little mining trips, so that shouldn't be difficult. And then, yeah, your frogs are going to be your difficult part, just getting them in there. If this is a design that you want to take up the scale of, you could definitely do something like this on the nether roof and increase those rates. If the nether roof is something you're willing to do, just have a spawnable area with a golem in the center. Then your magma cubes are going to want to track to your golem and then get them down to the frogs. So that's going to be it for that design. I mean, again, we just have our AFK spot up here, far enough away from the platforms that those guys can spawn. Again, because of all this spawnable area, we're not really controlling much. If you can find a basalt delta that is much more lava lake to it, that would even be more beneficial than this. I just kind of picked the first area I found to see what kind of rates I could get. And, you know, 350 light blocks an hour is not bad for that. So level 2 is going to be still dirty. We're going to use a spawner for this. I did consider using the design that I did in a previous video back in the pre-releases. That farm still works, and so I thought about showcasing that here, but I figured let's do another style of farm. So that is definitely something I would recommend checking out because that's going to be a much better farm. You're going to be looking at about 5,000 per hour in that other farm design, and it's going to be about the same count of materials. But maybe you're playing on a server that doesn't allow access to the nether roof, or you're playing on a server that has players in the overworld all the time, and you don't have a friend to help you AFK, so that nether roof portal design would mean that they despawn instead of giving you the product. This is an option that you can look into. So this is still single player friendly because we're just going to use that spawner. And all we've done here is we cleared out an area of 5 blocks all the way around this spawner. We've once again just done that powdered snow every other block so that it can touch the large magmas and kill them, and the medium magmas and kill them. And then we just need to make sure we AFK within range of that spawner. And we don't have to worry about anything despawning. We just bring in our frogs. If you want to change the ratio of the ochre versus pearlescent blocks that you get, you know, just change the amount of frogs that you bring into this area. And then once again, all these trapdoors are on hoppers and then feeding into our chests. Again, not really much to that. You know, the powdered snow may be expensive there, but again, if you want to get those green frogs, you have to find a cold biome anyways. So without some luck of finding all those biomes together and finding the frogs where you want them, there is going to just have to be a little bit of hunting for the frogs that you want and set up and plan ahead of time. Once again, remember that if you try and grow your frogs up in the nether, actually in here from the tadpoles, you're only going to get these white frogs, which is only going to get you the pearlescent or purple frog light blocks. This is the one where we go, because instead of increasing the drops that we got from 50k trying to go to like 300,000 or 500,000, I had to turn it way down. As I mentioned earlier, you have to have a frog and a magma cube in order to get just that one block. That means that every time you want to get another block, you need to get another entity. And so you actually have 3 entities because you have the block, the magma cube, the frog. The first test of this design that I wanted to do ran at 187 MSPT. For those of you who don't know, just real quick, the game of Minecraft runs normally under 50 MSPT or milliseconds per tick. That means it takes 50 milliseconds to process everything it needs to do in the game per tick. If it starts taking more than 50 MSPT, you're going to start to notice things like lag. So I've just manually turned down the TPS a little bit here to just see what a little bit of lag looks like. You can see how kind of bouncy that frog was as it was going through the air. I'm sure you all have seen it when you've been on a server. So that was just slightly. That was probably about 60 MSPT. This is about the speed the game was running. I'm telling you all this just so you know ahead of time. If you decide to build this design and want to try and take it up a notch, by all means, I'd love to see how people handle that. But do so at your own risk. Having 1,500 magma cubes in the overworld along with 140 frogs, not going to be the best on your CPU or your server. So let's take a look at what I ended up with. So what we have here is we have 2 chunks that are filled with 2 layers of portals each. And then we have a player that AFKs in the nether up in the air. And because this is a basalt delta, the only things that can spawn in there are either striders, magma cubes, or ghasts. Well, we don't have any lava in there, so no striders. It's not tall enough for ghasts, so no ghasts, so it's just all magma cubes in here. Those magma cubes then need to get sent to the overworld, and all the small magma cubes need to be served up to the frogs. All the big magma cubes need to be turned into mediums, and the mediums need to be turned into smalls. I originally started out doing a nether perimeter version of this, where we had portals in this cube right down here. You can see there are no more portals anymore. This is what broke the game. It literally crashed my game just in single player. So if this was a server, it would for sure boot everyone off and crash the server. So we're not going to do the perimeter. What happened is we had so many magma cubes coming in that when they got sent to the overworld and then killed and turned into the small ones, there were about 1,500 magma cubes in the overworld before the frogs could start eating them properly, and it was just too much. So this right here is about as high as I would personally recommend going. The 2x2 chunks with the 2 layers of portals. Even this might be pushing it a little bit. Earlier I was running it with just 1 layer of portals, so I took out this entire top layer. It was still producing about 42,000 froglights per hour. So it's not like we're drastically increasing the rates here, but I figured, you know what, we're still operating decently. Let's take a look at it. So I'm going to spawn a bot here. This does not require 2 players, so you can do this in single player. If you are going to be on a server that is going to have other people in the overworld, though, you need to note that if you don't have another player by the overworld kill chamber, the magma cubes will instantly despawn. So let's drop down from our bot. We'll leave our bot there and let's go take a look at what we got. This is the overworld side. It looks a little weird, but I'm going to talk about what we did here. So we have 2 portals, and the reason that I did this spread out here is because we actually have all 3 biome types we need to get those different types of frogs right next to each other by the kill chambers. So you can build this over these types of biomes and then just grow them up. Alternatively, if you couldn't find a spot that was like this, that had this snowy peaks right here, right by a plains, right by a savanna, you can just bring your frogs over from wherever you find them. It's just going to be a little bit more work. So we originally started out by having the magma cubes come into the portal and having the large ones take some suffocation damage in obsidian pillars. The problem is when the large magma cubes die, the medium magma cubes are now a new mob and they can go back through the portal to the other side. So we get mobs coming through for about 20 seconds and then mobs would just stop. So what we have here is these chambers of water on either side of the portals. So the magma cubes, they swim out, they float to the top, up in the water actually. So this is all water sources up here, then we just have flowing water down here. And then we're alternating walls and fences so that the medium and the large magma cubes can't get out and they actually drown. But the small magma cubes are able to find their way through those cracks and float up to the top, where we just have water up at the top flowing off to the sides that pushes them into either of the chambers. So we have 4 total chambers of frogs, 1 on each side of each portal. We have 35 frogs inside each. Now, right now, there are a lot more frogs than there are magma cubes in this. But then we see this one right here. This one has been favored on getting some of the small magma cubes, so now this one's a little backed up. So I ran some tests with having different amounts of frogs in each of these chambers in intervals of 5. So I think I started at 15 because I can already see that 15 was going to be necessary. So 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, and 50. I saw that once you started getting past the 35 mark, you were getting a little bit less on your returns. And then you're also adding in more entities because, you know, that would be 15 more per chamber if you went up to the 50, for example. And then you're already looking at another 60 entities. As you can see from all the magma cubes we have down in this chamber, all the tiny magma cubes we have falling out, the frogs sitting there, we have already enough entities to deal with. Here I ran the tick health and we can already see that this setup is now running at 40 MS because of all the entities we have in the overworld here. So this is already enough that when you run this, you should probably put out a server notice. Hey, just a heads up, we're going to run the Froglight farm for a little while. But then you just have tons of Froglight blocks coming in. So we filtered them out, put them in a shulker loader, so we can just get shulker boxes of these things. There is also a way in 1.19 to instantly unload hopper minecarts by breaking them. This system you see right here is by El Mango. He came up with this 1Y tileable instant hopper minecart unloader. So I'm not going to go through the details of all that, but go ahead and check out his video for that on his channel. The one thing I did do is I just put a long comparator pulse extender so that it puts a nice delay on these so they're not all running at the same time. That way we can have these kind of come in smaller batches. Otherwise what we had is we had the minecarts all coming in at once. It would be giant batches, and then just these 3 filters couldn't keep up with all the same type of block coming in. So we've just done that to kind of split that up a little bit. Nothing to note, I did use mud down here because originally I was thinking of maybe just hoppers underneath. and then I didn't change it back because I just kind of like the look of the frogs in the mud. This does not have to be a mud or a soul sand block. That's not a full block. Because we're using hopper minecarts, this could be any block type that you want. So that's really it. There's not much to it. I mean, a frog eats a mammoth cube, get a Froglite block. So once again, there will be a world download down the video description if you want to check that out. Also, if you want to learn more about this one wide tileable instant hopper minecart unloader, go ahead and check out Ilmango's channel. He's got a lot of great 119 stuff coming out lately, and I will catch you in the next one. Have a good one. Bye.